During the earthquake, Paul abandoned me, even though I was pregnant, and carried his first love out of the rubble. After I was rescued, I saw her post on her moments. I know, you will always choose me without hesitation. I quietly gave it a like. The post was quickly deleted. Paul came to the hospital for the first time to see me and explained on her behalf. She was just commemorating surviving the disaster. Don't make a fuss. My hand moved to my flat belly as I looked at him with a smile. I won't make a fuss anymore. Chapter 01. I lay on the hospital bed, scrolling through Victoria's moments. The latest post was from 3 days ago, the very day the earthquake struck. I know, you will always choose me without hesitation. One of Paul's friends commented below. Betting, Victoria. Delete this already. If she sees it, she'll start a fight with Paul again. His friend's worry was justified. In the 10 years of our marriage, because of Victoria, I fought endlessly with Paul, every time hysterical, earth-shattering, but this time, I simply pressed like, pulled the blanket over myself, and went to sleep. Not long after Paul carried Victoria away that day, the aftershocks began. The rubble buried me even deeper, the pain in my abdomen growing sharper and sharper. I could only desperately claw at the dirt covering my body, until both hands were covered in blood. Yet I still couldn't save my child. I could clearly feel her leaving me. Exhaustion and heartbreak numbed everything, and I let my eyes close. When I woke again, I was already in the hospital. The nurse told me the rescue team had arrived just in time, and pulled me back from death. Paul had arrived yesterday. The hospital notified him. Are you okay? That was the first thing he asked. His eyes showed concern, but his voice was cold. I'm fine. Then the room fell into dead silence. That silence lasted until earlier, when the nurse reminded me to eat. Paul finally went out to buy food. Soon, he returned. He helped me sit up, placed 2 pillows behind my back, and awkwardly explained, her moment was just marking that she survived. It doesn't mean anything. Paul froze, staring at me as if he couldn't believe my reaction. Just as he set the food on the little table, his phone rang. Victoria's shrill, tear-filled voice came through. Why aren't you back yet? Don't you want me anymore? Paul glanced at me, quickly cupped the phone, and hurried outside. I quietly ate my meal. The doctor said I must eat properly now. My body urgently needed nutrition. When I finished, I endured the pain and got up, throwing everything into the trash can. Just as I tossed the last container, Paul came in. You should have left it for me. Why push yourself? Facing me, he never seemed able to speak gently. Strangely, I wasn't angry. I didn't compare him with how tender he was with Victoria. I simply turned and lay back in bed. He held his phone, standing there stiffly, wanting to speak but hesitating. You should go. Paul's eyes widened. What did you say? She's fragile, and she just went through an earthquake. She shouldn't be alone. Paul frowned slightly. I bought the necklace you like. Whenever we fought, he would buy me a necklace, sometimes even the same one again. He didn't care. It was just a step he offered me. Whether I took it or not depended on how sensible I was. Usually, like a tactless shrew, I would throw the necklace at his face, then search his phone, search his computer, forcing him to explain the days he disappeared with Victoria. Over and over. This was my life for 8 years. Thank you. I like it. Paul blinked, muttering. You haven't even seen it yet. How do you know you like it? I pretended not to hear and closed my eyes. But Paul didn't leave. He pulled a chair over and sat at my bedside. Today, I'll stay with you. Suppressing my irritation, I turned over and unexpectedly fell asleep. When I woke, it was already dark. The room was empty. Paul's coat and bag were gone. A nurse assistant walked in. Mr. Paul said there was work at the company. He told me to take good care of you before he left. I nodded. Thank you. Once he left, I felt much more relaxed. I even ate more dinner than before. The nurse assistant suddenly asked, You still haven't told Mr. Paul about the baby? No. Chapter 02. At night, just as I was about to sleep, Paul's call came in. Before I could say anything, I heard Victoria's voice. I'm scared. Sleep with me, okay? You used to always stay with me. Paul was silent for a moment, then hurriedly hung up the phone. A moment later, he called again to explain, simply saying, "She's sick. Don't take it to heart." I chuckled softly. Take good care of her. Paul seemed to want to say something more, but I had already hung up. It was the first time I'd ever hung up on him first. I stayed in the hospital for only half a month before I could be discharged. The doctor advised me to rest well, then turned to look outside the ward. Your husband hasn't come yet? I checked my phone. The car I called is here. I'll head out first. He looked uneasy and wanted to escort me out himself, but a patient's family stopped him at the office. Helplessly, he gave the nurse strict instructions to make sure I got in the car safely. When I got home, the housekeeper Monica greeted me. Where's the gentleman? Why is everyone asking about him? Without him, do they think I can't survive? Paul came back an hour later. The moment he entered, he stormed in and questioned me angrily. Why didn't you wait for me? I told you I'd pick you up. Are you messing with me on purpose? Before I could reply, he sneered. No wonder you've been so generous these past few days. I thought you'd matured. But turns out you're just being petty again? I was a bit tired inside. Explaining, a new patient arrived in the ward. I had nowhere to go, so I came back early. Paul instantly shut up. It wasn't the first or second time he had stood me up. In fact, during our 8 years together, the first 3 years were decent. We treated each other with respect. And he was good to me. But after Victoria came back, everything changed. These past few years, we hadn't even spent a proper holiday together. Victoria's health was poor. As long as she cried over the phone, Paul would drop everything and go to her. Even on our wedding anniversary, even during my parents' birthday banquets, his excuse was always that Victoria was an orphan, and besides him, she had no one else to rely on. Then he'd hand me a necklace, which, in his eyes, was already a sincere gesture, and just quietly watch me, waiting for me to explode. Waiting for me to scream like a madwoman. Perhaps I was too calm this time, which sparked Paul's curiosity. He sat beside me, cupped my face, and studied it carefully. Is this really my wife? You've never been so obedient and well-behaved before. I smiled faintly and pushed his hand away. That was then. From now on, I'll never be like that again. I needed to recuperate. The injuries on my body weren't serious, but the miscarriage had done great damage to my health. Soon, Victoria's birthday was approaching. Paul had already prepared her gift in advance. Victoria said. He looked at me, hesitating. She said she wants to eat your longevity noodles. Chapter 03. Has she ever eaten food I cooked? The moment I said that, I wished I could slap myself. Back in school, I used to bring breakfast for Paul, but in the end, it probably all ended up in Victoria's mouth. Paul leaned in and hugged me from behind. She's never had longevity noodles made by a family member. I thought yours are the best. I'm not feeling well. I can't cook. His expression stiffened for a moment as he looked me up and down. Didn't the doctor discharge you? Why are you still feeling unwell? What obligation do I have to cook longevity noodles for your ex-girlfriend? Paul only ever yields to Victoria. With everyone else, he only gets more aggressive when challenged. My attitude obviously provoked his bad temper. No obligation? He pulled out his phone and made a call. You're saying that too early. Half an hour later, I understood what he meant. Your family's factory lost $700,000 last year, and another $100,000 last month. The assistant kept glancing at me, his voice growing quieter and quieter. This was probably the first time in his career he'd seen a husband publicly humiliate his wife in front of an outsider. Why did you stop reading? Paul asked casually from the sofa, his eyes still on me. The assistant looked torn, glancing between me and his boss. I stood up. Her birthday is tomorrow, right? Paul nodded. My longevity noodles will be served on time. Beyond that, I didn't say a single extra word. The assistant looked a bit surprised. Privately, they all called me a tigress. He'd even witnessed me causing a scene at Paul's company. In all these years of knowing me, he had probably never seen me this calm. That evening, Paul got a call and left. Surprisingly, as he walked out, He said, "There's something at the office. I'll be back soon." I ignored him and continued my peaceful sleep. Without him beside me, I actually slept even better. The next morning, I was woken up by a phone call before I even got out of bed. It was my mom, from the time I was hospitalized to when I was discharged. This was the first time she had called me. "How's your health? If you have something to say, just say it." I cut off her fake concern. Only then did she speak. "Your brother, he's gotten into a bit of trouble. Do you think Paul could help out?" I sighed. Instead of answering directly, I started rambling. "Today's Victoria's birthday. Paul's throwing a party at home for her, and even asked me to cook longevity noodles." My mom paused for a moment, then quickly laughed. "What's the big deal? It's just a bowl of noodles. It's not like you don't know how to make it. Victoria's a pitiful girl, you should be nice to her." I didn't listen anymore. I hung up. Then I looked at the drawer. Inside was a document I had long since prepared. Chapter 04. After breakfast, I started making the longevity noodles. Paul returned with Victoria, along with a few of his friends. "Thank you." She leaned against Paul and said sweetly, "I just casually mentioned wanting to eat the longevity noodles you make, and I didn't expect Paul would really bother you with it." I smiled. "You don't have any family, so I guess I have to do the hard work." Victoria's expression changed dramatically. She clenched her fists tightly, her nails digging deep into her palms. "She's an orphan, back in school." The teacher introduced her background to the class and arranged for her to sit next to me, hoping I'd take care of her. She always had a faint sense of sorrow about her, what people now call the broken look. It made people want to treat her kindly. I was no exception. I treated her like a friend, told her everything, including that I had liked Paul since childhood. She listened silently and even encouraged me to pursue love bravely. But on my birthday, when I had carefully planned to confess to Paul, she walked in holding his hand and introduced him to me. "This is my boyfriend. We've been dating for 6 months. She looked at me expectantly. "You'll give us your blessing, right?" Unfortunately, Paul's family didn't approve of the relationship. His grandmother threatened to kill herself if he didn't marry me. My family had its own problems and needed help from Paul's side, so they pressured me to agree too. 2 resentful people ended up stumbling through 10 years together. "Lisa," Paul's low voice interrupted my thoughts. I looked up to see Paul glaring at me. "Don't push it." His friends chimed in. "Yeah, sis-in-law, it's Victoria's birthday today. You're being too harsh." "She's right. You're clearly doing it on purpose. You should apologize to Victoria." Victoria silently shed tears beside Paul and tugged at his arm. "Paul, I'd better go. Lisa doesn't welcome me here." "Then why did you even come?" I sneered at her. "Did you just now realize I don't welcome you?" "Lisa," Paul stepped forward and grabbed my arm. "Apologize." I looked at him. I should have been angry, should have slapped him across the face like before, but I was just tired. Today, I finally understood what it means when they say, "The deepest sorrow is when the heart dies." Didn't you hear me? Paul still thought he had the upper hand. "Apologize to Victoria." I gently pushed his hand away and nodded. "I should apologize." Victoria's eyes briefly flashed with triumph, quickly replaced with grievance. "Paul, don't make it hard on Lisa. I've never had a family. It's only natural people think they can bully me." I couldn't help but laugh. I stepped forward, took Victoria's hand, and placed it into Paul's. "I should apologize, but not to either of you. I only owe an apology to myself." The two of them looked at each other, confused. Then I added, "You two really are a perfect match, one scum, one shameless. I hope you stay together for all eternity." Paul flung Victoria's hand away. He stared at me for a few seconds, then held back his anger. "What kind of nonsense are you spouting again?" I turned around and pulled a document from the coffee table drawer, handing it to him. Paul quickly flipped it open, and after reading the first page, looked up at me, his eyes filled with irritation. "Divorce papers?" "Yes." I nodded. "It's just a draft. If you have any objections or things to add, we can discuss it later." Then I turned to Victoria. "Happy birthday. This is probably the happiest one you've had in years. Enjoy it." With that, I walked to the hallway, picked up my bag. My documents were already inside. I had packed everything long ago. Paul's friends tried to stop me. Sis-in-law, it's just Victoria's birthday. No need to be so upset, right? Yeah, even if you're mad. Don't joke about divorce. I heard your brother's in trouble lately. If you leave, what'll happen to him? I turned to them and said, if I leave, you won't have to work so hard telling Paul bad things about me behind my back. You don't need to cover for him anymore. The couple you shipped is finally together. Shouldn't you be happy? They glanced at each other, then looked down, saying nothing. Suddenly, Paul spoke. Don't stop her. Let her go. I didn't linger. I walked toward the door, but he followed after me. If you walk out that door today, don't even think about coming back. I stopped in my tracks. Paul smirked, thinking he'd won. I'll never come back again. Chapter 05. I had just moved into the apartment I rented when my parents called. So now you're so capable. Huh? Getting a divorce and not even discussing it with us? Why should I have to discuss my divorce with you? The two of them were furious, practically screaming. They let out every insult they hadn't used in the past 30 years. Fortunately, I no longer had any expectations of them. After the divorce, Paul definitely won't help clean up my brother's mess anymore. I smiled. Instead of wasting time yelling at me, you'd be better off having another daughter, so she can keep being a blood bank for my brother. Otherwise, how's he going to survive? You're insane. What kind of daughter behaves like this? I hung up, blocked all their contacts, and turned off my phone. At last, my world went quiet. I lay on the bed, watched some shows, read some books. Turns out life can be this peaceful and pleasant. I stayed curled up at home for a few days before turning my phone back on. There were over 100 missed messages and calls, from my parents and from Paul. There was also one number that looked familiar. I called it back, and a warm, gentle voice came through. How are you feeling? It was Diego. I'm okay. He grew serious. Okay or not, you still need a follow-up. Your phone's been unreachable. Do you really not care about your own health? He sounded so much like a teacher that I couldn't help but apologize. Sorry. Come for your checkup tomorrow. Okay. The gynecologist couldn't reach you either. They ended up calling your home. Your husband picked up. Didn't he know you were pregnant? Oh, I didn't tell him. And we're getting divorced. There's no need to tell him. Diego didn't say anything else. Just reminded me to come to the hospital the next day. When I arrived the following day, Diego saw me and immediately put on his stern face, looking ready to scold me like a student. I braced myself for a lecture, but instead, he simply asked about how I'd been doing lately. You're really going through with the divorce? He suddenly asked as I was about to leave. I was a little surprised, but nodded. His brows furrowed. A flicker of uncertainty flashed in his eyes. He hesitated for a long time before finally saying, "Is there anything I can do to help?" "Not for now." I went to the law firm again. My lawyer had returned from a business trip and arranged to meet me. She advised me to try negotiating with Paul first, since a lawsuit would take much longer and might not yield an ideal property division. All right, I'll talk to him in the next few days. But before I could go find Paul, he came to me. I had just arrived at the entrance of my apartment complex when I saw a familiar figure standing there. It was winter, and he was wearing only a thin coat. When he saw me, he immediately walked over quickly, but stumbled and nearly fell. Once he got close, I caught a strong smell of alcohol. His health was never good. I'd always forbidden him from drinking, and after many arguments, he actually listened and stopped drinking. "Lisa," he called my name softly and looked at me with pitiful eyes. "Have you thought about the divorce agreement?" He sniffled, lowered his head, and gently placed a hand on my stomach, choking back tears. He asked, "There used to be our child here, right? Nothing else could hurt me anymore, only that child. She remained the eternal thorn in my heart. Any touch would bring a pain sharp enough to tear me apart. What does that have to do with you?" I'm sorry," he said. I'm sorry a dozen times in a row, on the verge of breaking down. "But what good does that do now? Even if you die in front of me, the child won't come back." Paul recoiled as if struck by a bullet. curling up in pain as he clung tightly to my wrist. His tears fell in heavy drops onto the back of my hand. That day, when you chose Victoria, you killed the baby, and you killed me too. I shoved him away forcefully. You're lucky you're even standing here saying sorry. Do you know how many people died in that earthquake? Paul's eyes were bloodshot. His lips parted, but no sound came out. You don't need to put on this fake guilt and repentance in front of me. I won't accept it, and I will never forgive you. With difficulty, Paul finally spoke. All of this is my fault. He wiped his face with his hand, tears smearing across his skin. I thought I hated you. If your family and my grandmother hadn't forced me, I wouldn't have ended up like this. But while you were gone, I realized I'd already gotten used to having you by my side. I was wrong, truly. How ridiculous. He always knew we were both victims, both forced by our families. His grandmother passed away, and now he had nowhere to vent all the resentment in his heart. So he dumped all of it onto me. So what now? Should I get on my knees and gratefully accept your late awakening? His breathing grew heavy, as if a huge stone pressed down on his chest. That's not what I meant. I don't know what to say. I didn't even want to look at him. I turned to go upstairs, but he blocked my way. Lisa, I know I was wrong. Can you give me one more chance? Just one, please? If you can bring my child back to life, if you can erase the last 10 years of pain, maybe then I could give you a chance. He stared at me blankly, his arms hanging lifelessly at his sides like a scarecrow in a field, completely devoid of spirit. I shook him off and hurried upstairs. That night, a heavy snow began to fall. When I lifted the curtain and looked down, I saw that he was still standing exactly where I'd left him. Snow had piled up all over him. And he didn't move at all. He really did look like a puppet with its strings cut. I didn't know until Victoria showed up pounding on my door that Paul had collapsed that morning and been taken to the hospital. She stood there as if she were here to seek justice on Paul's behalf. Have you ever seen a mistress coming to demand justice for her lover? Her fragile, pitiful act finally cracked, revealing a twisted, vicious expression beneath. Between us, you know better than anyone who the real mistress is. If you hadn't interfered back then, Paul and I wouldn't have spent all these years apart. Oh really? Then you should go tell Paul that. Tell him to hurry up and divorce me. And stop pestering me. Victoria suddenly curled her lips into a chilling smile. Her eyes dropped to my abdomen. You're dead, baby. If she knew her mother was this useless, what would she think? What did you say? I didn't believe Paul would tell anyone about the baby. Victoria let out a cold, contemptuous laugh. This is your punishment. Didn't you always want a child? Well, I made sure you'd never get one. This is your karma. You deserve it. Smack. I finally lost control. My hand flew across her face. Victoria stumbled backward, stunned. It took her a few moments to react. You dare hit me? She swung her hand toward me in fury, but someone grabbed her from behind, restraining her. Chapter 06. Paul stood pale-faced, wearing a hospital gown under his coat. You knew Lisa was pregnant all along? His voice was weak, but his eyes locked onto Victoria with deadly intensity. Victoria didn't dare answer, but her guilty expression said it all. Paul turned to look at me. Lisa. Just seeing his face reminded me of when I was trapped beneath the rubble. How I screamed for help with all my strength, and how I lost my child. The pain and rage surged through me like a tidal wave. I lost control, grabbed my phone and smashed it hard against Paul's head. A swelling quickly formed on his forehead. But that wasn't enough. I lunged at him, hitting him with everything I had. Paul didn't fight back, nor did he dodge. In no time, bruises covered his body, but I hadn't recovered fully myself, and my energy was drained in an instant. I lost balance and collapsed backward. A large hand caught me by the arm and steadied me. Are you all right? I looked up to find Diego. I didn't know why he was here, but he was holding a bunch of nutritional supplements in his arms. Do you need to go to the hospital? He looked at me with concern, his eyes full of worry. No need. Paul tried to say something, but I slammed the door in his face. When I came out after washing my hands, Diego was already calmly seated on my couch. A colleague gave me some health supplements. he said casually. I didn't need them, so I brought them over to you. I pretty much got the hint. He was probably interested in me. That's not necessary. I can buy my own. He froze for a moment, then chuckled. All right. Looks like these are going to sit around collecting dust. Even after my rejection, he didn't seem to mind. Instead, he glanced toward the door again. That was your ex-husband? We're not officially divorced yet, but it's only a matter of time, right? My heart sank. I suddenly felt a bit uncomfortable. We were just doctor and patient. That comment was a little out of line. Seeing my expression change, he quickly tried to backtrack. I'm not trying to interfere in your personal life, but your body hasn't fully recovered yet. And if he keeps bothering you like this, it's not going to help your recovery. I won't see him again. That might not be up to you, Diego replied after a pause. If he shows up again, just call me. I'll help you deal with him. I didn't respond, but just as he said, Paul showed up again the next day. Who was that guy yesterday? Like Diego, he brought a whole bunch of supplements, and also a huge bouquet of roses. In 10 years of marriage, I had only received flowers from him once, and later found out it was actually meant for his assistant's girlfriend, who forgot to take them home. I still remember how happy I was at the time, and how humiliating and painful it was once I knew the truth. He seemed to realize what I was thinking. He stammered to explain. That time, the flowers, they were from me, not from any assistant. I don't even know why I lied. You don't know why? I smiled faintly. Then let me tell you, it's because deep down, you didn't think I was worth it. Not worth your sincerity. Maybe you had some feelings for me, after all. We lived together every day. But in your heart, I was beneath you, and every time you had that thought, you strangled it in the cradle. Paul wanted to argue, but in the end he said nothing, because it was true. So, have you thought about the divorce agreement? Do you really hate me that much? You really want to leave me? Hate takes effort, and I no longer want to waste any effort on you. Right then, Diego arrived. I had messaged him just moments ago. You asked me earlier who he was? I said calmly, he's the man I like now. Chapter 07. Less than 3 days later, Paul brought back the divorce papers already signed. The only reason he kept clinging on was because I still had lingering feelings for him. He believed that as long as he spent enough effort and time, I would eventually turn back to him. After all, countless times before, all he needed to do was coax me lightly, and I would overlook everything. But in just a few days, Paul had lost so much weight. He was still wearing the coat I bought him before, yet it hung so loosely on him that it looked like he was secretly wearing someone else's clothes. I know you don't like that, doctor. He reeked of alcohol again, but his eyes were clear. You wouldn't jump into another relationship before ours is settled. You're not that kind of person. He handed me the divorce papers. I owe you, and I owe that child far too much. I opened it and found that he had added even more to the property division. Lisa, I know you won't forgive me. Honestly, I won't forgive myself either. He sniffed, but his tears still fell. I didn't expect him to suddenly drop to his knees before me with a thud. But I hope you won't disappear from my life. If we could have a meal together once in a while, exchange holiday greetings, I would already be very happy. Okay? No, for the first time, I spoke to him from a position of looking down at him. I don't want to see you again. A month later, I finally divorced smoothly. Chapter 08. After Diego learned that I had divorced, he came almost every day to bring me breakfast and flowers. He's a doctor, and he always has a full set of health theories, arranging my 3 meals a day in perfect order. Under his care, I really did get healthier and healthier. Look, this season is actually the best time to go to Harbin, or we could go skiing. I glanced at the travel plan he made. It seems like whatever he does, he must have a plan, and not just any plan, but an extremely detailed one. Let's go skiing then. I've never been. He said this was his first long vacation in 3 years, and he wanted to spend it with me. He truly gives people a sense of security. He always thinks of everything before I do and arranges it all perfectly. Traveling is the most direct way to judge a person's character. After we came back from skiing, Our relationship became even closer. At night, he mentioned wanting to stay over. Another time, I'm too tired today. It's precisely because you're tired that I want to take care of you. I wanted to start a new life, but I wasn't sure if accepting another man was really the simplest, cleanest way to do that. But before he could stay over, my parents arrived. What do you think you're doing? The moment they opened their mouths, it was to interrogate me. Could you please be clearer? My mother suddenly burst into tears. Your brother is still locked up inside. They said they want 1,800,000. Otherwise he'll rot in prison. That's serious? He's always caused trouble since he was little. As a kid, he got into huge fights with classmates. In high school, he dared to put nails in a teacher's tires. By the time he was 25, he was already a frequent visitor at the detention center. Of course he was reckless, because he knew no matter how big the trouble, my parents would clean it up for him. What did he do this time? My parents stuttered for a long time before finally explaining everything. He was racing on the street and nearly ran over a primary school kid. The child was still in the ICU. We already told them we'd cover all the medical expenses, but that family refuses to let it go. They just won't forgive your brother. I nearly lost my breath. Are you two insane? He hit their child so badly. How could you expect them to forgive him? It's not that serious. They're just trying to ruin your brother. I shook my head, unwilling to say anything more. I can't help him. Go find someone else. They clutched me desperately. You can't abandon your brother. You're his flesh and blood. I have no obligation to care for him. If you two fall ill or face financial hardship, I'll pay for your elder care and living expenses. For all these years, I've already done everything I could for you. Beyond that, I have nothing else to give. Don't come looking for me again. I forcefully pulled my hand back, walked inside, and closed the door. They cursed in the hallway for half an hour. When I didn't open the door, they finally left. A week later, the primary school child passed away at the hospital. Back then, the parents had asked for money because they wanted to treat their child. Now, no amount of money meant anything to them. They refused to accept a single cent and insisted on demanding the death penalty for my brother. Half a year later, the sentence was finalized, death penalty. My mother fainted on the spot. My father forbade me from entering the house, swearing that I was the one who killed my brother. The ones who killed him are you too. If you hadn't enabled him his whole life, he wouldn't have become so reckless. After that day, I never went back home again. They didn't want to see me, and I didn't want to see them. On the night before New Year's Eve, Diego confessed to me again. You really don't mind that I've been divorced and had a miscarriage? He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Of course I don't. I took a small sip of the wine in my glass. Then why? When you introduced me to your mother the other day, did you only mention my education and family background and left everything else out? He blinked. I just didn't think it was necessary to say so much. These days we've been together, you've always managed to avoid mentioning my past. You hide it well, but life isn't something you can get through with acting skills. He grew a bit exasperated. I already said I don't mind. What exactly are you being dramatic about? Are you insecure? I took a deep breath. I have nothing to feel insecure about. I just think we really aren't right for each other. Diego rarely lost his temper, but this time he did. He stormed off without even touching his food. Paul was right. I'm not someone who can jump immediately into another relationship. And the hurt from my marriage ran too deep. I couldn't bring myself to think about it again so soon. Diego is a good man, but we met at the wrong time. I finished my meal quietly before heading home. Just as I reached the restaurant entrance, I saw one of Paul's close friends. He hesitated when he saw me. As I was about to leave, he followed after me. I think there's something you should know. What? Paul, he's sick, and it might not be something that can be cured. As he spoke, his eyes actually turned red. Back then you never allowed him to drink, never allowed him to stay out late socializing. We even said you were some resentful housewife locked away. Now that Paul ended up like this, we finally realized we wronged you. I'm sorry. He suddenly bent down in a 90-degree bow. Could I please beg you to visit him at the hospital? He really wants to see you, but he's afraid it will make you unhappy. Something tightened in my chest, but I still shook my head. Help me tell him to focus on recovering. Please go see him. I'm begging you. I didn't look back and got into the car. I didn't expect even Victoria to come beg me. I never imagined she would end up like this. Her illness was congenital. All these years, Paul had been the one supporting her financially, including her living expenses. She had no ability to earn money, nor did her body allow it. Now that Paul no longer wanted to support her, she declined rapidly. He treated you like that, and you're still willing to beg me for him? Victoria's expression was desolate. I truly love him. Without him, I would have died long ago. 2 people apologized to me today, and one of them was Victoria. I never meant to steal the person you liked, but you already had everything: family background, looks. I only wanted one thing. Paul was the only light in my life. I couldn't hold back. I was the first person to ever give her a gift and tell her happy birthday. When she was bullied at school, I was the one who rushed to help her with the teacher. Yet she said Paul was her only light. Before they fell in love, what had Paul ever done for her? Nothing. I don't have many days left. If you hate me or resent me, I accept it all. I only beg you to go see Paul. If you're still angry, you can hit me if you want. I won't fight back. Suddenly, I felt that Paul had ruined both of us. If he had been firm back then and married Victoria, if I had been firm and not married Paul, we would have had different, far better 10 years. I accept your apology, but I won't go see him, and I will never forgive you. Victoria stared at me blankly. You're really this heartless? Go back. When she left, dawn was already breaking. 2 months later, Paul passed away. Victoria was the only person by his side. His lawyer came to find me. Paul had left me an inheritance. He had no siblings, and his parents were long gone. He left everything to me. Victoria, not long after Paul's passing, was gone too. A wave of melancholy suddenly washed over me. It felt like the city held no happy memory for me at all. With that thought, I simply bought a plane ticket and left, traveling everywhere, looking for a place suitable for a long stay. The next time I returned was 7 years later, when my mother passed away. I came back for the funeral. This time, my father didn't drive me away. He just didn't want to talk to me. I stayed for 2 days, then left again. He silently followed me into the car and sent me to the airport. When I was about to leave, he awkwardly said, "Take care of yourself, you too." But we both knew that once a relationship cracks, it can never be fully repaired. Not forcing anything is the only way for both sides to live better. I still have a wider world waiting for me to explore. As for the past, those things that caused me pain, let them stay buried forever beneath the ruins.